Good evening. Hi everyone. Just wait for some people to tune in and be notified that I am live. So excited tonight. Happy Thursday. Tonight we are painting colorful vibes. So I will show you the picture here. So this is what we're painting tonight, and I call it Colorful Vibes. So welcome if you're just tuning in. So nice to have everyone here. I am Megan from Painting with Megans. I have also linked my page with this video, so feel free to check out my page. I do live events there once a month. I also have many videos of past classes that I have done that are absolutely free, that are on there for you to watch at any time. So feel free to check that out after. So just if you missed it, oops. So I actually don't have the original photo or the original painting because I sold that, but I really missed it. So I thought I'm gonna paint this again. So I'm really excited to do that. So I call it Colorful Vibes, and there is some different techniques in here tonight that we'll be using. We'll be blending the sky, so blending for the background. And these trees are actually like a textured bark. So I have on my list painting knife or an old business card work just the same. Or even a piece of cardboard is perfectly fine as well. And I also have like a sponge effect that you'll see that I used in the trees. So it's really fun, lots of cool techniques tonight. This is great for all ages, any levels. No worries there, just have fun. That's the goal. Okay, so I'm just gonna put this over here. So I'll just go over the colors before I get started and the materials. So I have brushes tonight. You can use either a flat brush or a filbert brush, so either or are fine. Something large just to cover the background. I have an 11 by 14 here. You can use any size. Preferably put it straight just so you can have the trees to be taller. I also have an old frailed brush, so if you don't have a sponge, you can use either of these items here. And then I have painting knives. So if you're wondering what those are, these are example painting knives, palette knives. Or like I said, old piece of cardboard or a business card that you don't need anymore. So I have a cup of water, of course, and a napkin. And the colors I have out to start are the primary colors plus white. So I have yellow, blue, and red. I like to use the Liquitex Basics brand. I know that Kat really likes to use these ones too. They are wonderful. They're like not too thin and not too thick. So super awesome. You can find those at Michael's online or Amazon. I'm from Listowel, Ontario, Canada. So I know some people in here are from all over the world. So maybe if you're here watching, maybe just say where you're from. I always like to see. Okay, so let me know. I'm gonna turn down my music just a tad here. It started off so quiet. There we go. Okay, so I just turned it down and then it kind of paused. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I see that people are here. So again, welcome. And my name is Megan from Painting with Megan. All right, so to start, I'm going to use my filbert brush, and it's a little bit bigger so I can cover more background surface area. So we'll work on the background, blend in beautiful colors. Of course, the colors that I have here, you're welcome to change, or if you don't have a particular color, you go ahead and you choose what's best for you. And I'm using acrylic paints as well. So just be careful with your clothes. Okay, so what we're going to do to start is I have this large brush and I'm dipping into white. So just some white, and I'm just coating the brush back and forth. All right, and I'm going to go from one corner to the other with just the white to start. And I'm dipping in water and then in the paint, and that is to help get this paint to spread a little bit more, thinning it just a little bit, but not too much water because then it'll drip. I'm also in a humid room, so I feel like my paint will dry faster, so I'm just keeping it a little bit wetter. Okay, so I'm just going back and forth. We're going to go down to about halfway with white just to start. Just priming it, warming up our hands, and just getting some background, some paint here on the background, so the paint we apply with the colors will have somewhere to set into. There we go. So I'm about halfway here, and that's good there. So I go from one side of the canvas all the way to the other in one stroke. The way I do that is I put a fair bit of paint on my brush in order for it to spread across, and I also use a little bit of water like I had mentioned, and that helps go from one side to the other, and that's the way I'll be doing it the whole time for this background as we apply color. So just put some little more white here at the top. And don't forget to paint your sides as you go. I am notorious for forgetting, so hopefully you're better at remembering that than me, if you have a canvas anyways that has the sides. Okay, so next I'm not going to clean off my brush. I still have a little bit of white on there, and this is still wet, and that's perfect. So I'm going to dip into a little bit of red here. Okay, so I'm just coating both sides of the brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from one side to the other and just apply some red. So just nice and soft. And see how it's easily moving because it's still a little bit wet. And I made a nice pink because there was white there, which is perfect. You could also just mix white and red if it's dry on you or something like that. There we go. So I'm just going down, it's about 2 to 3 fingers length. Depends on the size of your canvas. Like if you have like, say like a 20 by 16, that's quite large, so I would go down a little bit more, right? Just depends on your size. And I'll just show you the reference here again. So there's not a whole lot of pinks in this original painting that I have. I did sell it, if you didn't catch that at the beginning. So that's why I don't have the original to show you physically, but oh, and yeah, as we go along, please like let me know how you're doing. If you have any questions, just give me like thumbs up or hearts, and that'll indicate to me that like you're ready for the next step and that everything's going well. And I'll imagine myself there with you. Okay. So I'm going to put just a little bit more kind of pink streak just randomly in that wet white area while it's still wet. So just getting a little bit of water on my brush and then just kind of, I'm going to mix up some pink now just in case it's drying. So I'm just taking a little bit of white and red. It's up to you what kind of pink you want. More red makes it more of a hot pink. You know, more white would make it a lighter pink. So it's totally your preference. Okay, and I'm going to say about in this part here, so maybe like another 2 fingers down roughly, and I'm just going to put in another kind of stroke. So think of these like distant clouds and that type of thing that are going to be behind these trees. So I'm just going from one side to the other, and I'm kind of doing it a little bit lightly, and it just very randomly. And if you need to get some water on there, because that'll really make a difference if it's just not moving for you. There we go. So this part didn't go from one side to the other, but that's okay. The idea is to keep the brush kind of in that motion, even if a little bit gets over that way, just to help with it, making it look smooth. Cool. I'm going to clean off my brush now. And I'm still going to use the same brush there. And apparently my music is just frozen forever, so I'm just going to go turn that back on. I just love painting with music. I don't know about you guys. Okay, so I did turn it down. Awesome. All right. Anybody here a beginner tonight? So I have that brush cleaned off. I'm going to get into some, let's do some blues. So I have blue and white here. I'm going to take some blue and some white and stir that around and make a nice kind of light sky blue. Whatever blue you like. If you want more of a bold blue, then I would just keep more blue than white. It's totally your preference. There we go. So I'm just going with like a medium sky blue tone. So pretty even with the half blue and half white. This still may be a little bit wet, so that's good too. So now with that blue color, and we're gonna get a little bit of purples in here, which is awesome. The more color variety in the sky, the better. Think of it as like a distant sunset and clouds. Okay, so I'm gonna go again from one side to the other and just kind of stroke that back and forth. There we go. I dipped in water and now I'm going on to the canvas and that just smoothens it. So I am going down and covering some of that pinkish red color. I'm going a little bit on top of it, and that is because you want it to blend in naturally. There we go. So one side to the other, and just back and forth. There we go. And I'm getting some more blue on my brush. And I'm going to put some kind of in between this area and maybe just underneath of the pink. That's what I'll say for blue. I do have a fair bit of green in the original, so that's what I'm going to work with mostly. There we go. So I just put water again because that is just helping me blend. And I am going on top of the red, pink color that's there. There we go, so that's about halfway. I'm just cleaning off the brush. Yeah. Okay, so I have a clean brush and I'm just applying some white to it. Okay, and I'm going to, so now we can tell like there's like definite lines here, like this is blue, this is pink, right? We don't want that to show up as much. So with some white, going on top of any of these like lines that you see that are dividing, put a little bit of white and I'll show you that. And if there's a part like that you like and you don't want to do this, you don't have to as well. I always like to keep it open for people to use their creativity as well. Okay, so I'm just putting a little bit of white here, and that just kind of helps soften it and look like a cloud. So see how that took away the line, and as it dries it'll go more transparent. So I'm just putting a little bit of kind of whites here too. And if you end up losing pink, we could definitely reapply. Blending is definitely a process, so I'm just putting white right on there. Anywhere that I can tell there's just like that definite line. I'm using a little bit of water as well. And these are going to look like clouds and all sorts of things that are in the sky. And as you see, I just go back and forth on top of pink as well with that kind of watered down color. After a while, it just keeps blending in. So it works best when it is wet, so you might need a little water to kind of go on top of it. There we go. I'm just going all the way. I backtrack, right? I go down and I go up and I spread that around. I don't just stay in one area. And that's the kind of the key with blending, is just moving all around, but using some water with some white and just kind of tying it together. Let me know how you're doing, or like I said, if you have any questions. If you lose blue or lose your red, your pink, you could totally add that back. So for example, I kind of lost some of it there, so I would just mix up some of that pink again. And I would just apply that in there, right on top. There we go. Just kind of playing around. I'll maybe put some more kind of paint up here. And I just have water on my brush with that color, and I'm just basically going back and forth on any lines, and that just really helps to blend it together. There we go. Okay, so that's what I have for that top part, and then we'll work into some green and a little bit of yellow down there. So I have some green that I had before in a container, so it's kind of like a light green. If you don't have green, you could mix blue and yellow together. So a lighter green would just have more yellow, and a bolder, darker green would just have a little more blue to it. But in my original, I used more of a lighter tone of green. So something along the lines of this color. It was a premix that I made before that I have way too much of. Okay, so I'm just cleaning off my large brush there. So you could have, next out you'll need green and yellow and white out. My yellow is slowly moving away. Okay, so I'm actually just gonna dip in just white right now, and I'm going to next prime the bottom with just the white from the middle point down. So even on top of this here, it's totally fine. I'm just applying my white to get it ready for the next blending stages. And I'm putting it on quite thickly, so that way hopefully it stays wet longer. With blending, the wetter it is, better. I do a couple strokes and then I just dip again in white. Anybody in here from Canada? Or in Ontario? That's where I am. Crazy Ontario. I heard Ontario is becoming quite famous. There we go. So I have all the white. So I won't clean the brush again. And I'm going to go into green. So I'll just show you how to make green in case you don't have it. So I would just take some blue and some yellow and mix that around. So I'm adding more yellow to make it more of a lighter, kind of limey green. You moved back to Ontario in July. Oh, cool. Oh, well, hopefully things are a little bit easier when you come back to Ontario. I'm sure you've heard of all of our kind of lockdowns and stuff going on here. Okay, so I have light green. So I just had more yellow than blue. And I'm going to directly apply that right here. So right under that blue. And I'm just going back and forth. And I'm using some water as I go. There we go. Back and forth. From California with Kat. Oh my gosh, goals. I would love to live by the ocean. That would be awesome. I'm obsessed with the ocean. where I am in Ontario, it's surrounded by farmland. So I don't really have any water near me, so I just really miss like big bodies of water. So I'm just taking this light green, and I'm basically going down to the bottom. I am going down to the bottom, sorry. So I just have light green. Time to time, dip in some blue and kind of stir that in there and get some different colors. Maybe down here we'll add a little more blue to the green. So something like this, kind of like more of a teal. And apply that to the bottom. Just kind of give it a different color going on there. So this is more green, or more yellow than blue, like a lighter green. And then down here is going to be more blue than yellow, like a teal. Of course, if you have those colors, then you can just directly apply them. And I didn't paint my sides, but maybe you guys did. Every now and then I get some water on my brush and just kind of use that to assist me on spreading it back and forth, and that's what makes it easily move. Whew. So that's my other green that I dipped into by accident. There we go. If you have other greens lying around, feel free to add them in. I'm just adding some direct kind of yellow, so I'm just dipping in yellow. Now this is kind of when I'm going to add other colors, kind of like up here. So I'm just adding in some direct yellow and just blending it in so it's like not super bold. There we go. Watching from, oh, Newfoundland, cool. So interesting, like how we can all connect online from all over. So fun. I just love to paint. Okay, so up here where I have the blue and the green, I'm just going to dip into blue. Maybe my light blue that I had. And if you don't have it, you can always make that again. Just here in the middle, I just want to put that blue back on top and just blend it down a bit into the green. Just so it gets rid of any potential line that's there. Maybe that area looks like it doesn't need it for you, then don't worry. But if it does, and you can tell if it's like a line, then I would apply blue, like that light blue, whatever color of your sky you had, like that tone, and just blend it down into the green a little bit, and little tie it together nicely. Blending definitely takes practice, and the wetter it is, the better. So hopefully I'm not like going too fast for you. So it's kind of that thing where it's like you gotta be a little bit fast, but like because the blending needs to be wet. And acrylics, if you're using them, they like to dry fast too. So it's kind of, sometimes you gotta do like more than one layer. Sometimes you don't. Just takes some time to play around with that, and you'll find a way that works best for you. We all have our own styles, we just don't know it, you know? Sometimes it just comes out. I know when I'm teaching like in-person classes, people will have, like even though I'm teaching the same thing, we'll all have something a little bit different. And it's like just so cool because it's so unique. And like, no one can ever recreate that exact same art, right? So it's like original. So yeah, that's for the background. So now I just want to put a couple of random kind of clouds in there before we do the trees. So that would just be some white. And then we'll go on to the trees. Oh, and in the original, actually, if you have gold, okay. Would you use a medium to help it blend for longer? Yes, you could. You could totally buy, like, it's a medium that goes with acrylic paints that keeps it wet just a little bit longer. I actually don't have that anymore. I ran out. So if you have gold, I'm just putting gold onto my fancy palettes. like in the original, I had a little bit of gold kind of in the background, very, like not a lot of it because there is going to be gold and stuff with the grasses and the leaves and then the bark. So this is kind of a bonus. I just have a little bit of gold on my brush. It's like just kind of brushing it out. And I did it in the greens. So if this is still wet, it's even better. Just take some gold and just randomly place it. So I kind of put it a little bit under the middle. You might not see it on the camera. Let me see if I can get a little more. Yeah, there it is. So I'm just kind of placing it on in a random spot, wherever feels good for you. And I just make sure I go back and forth a little bit of water and just blend it in. And so it's not standing out, unless you like it to stand out, totally cool too. So I'm just putting a little bit kind of at the bottom, just some random gold, a little bonus in the background. Yeah. So you can maybe see that. Yeah. Okay, so now we'll do clouds, sorry. So I'm just cleaning off that large brush. I'm still going to use this large brush until we get to the trees, so. Just using some white. A little bit of white on my brush. So dip in white and then maybe just somewhere else or even on your paper towel and just kind of dab some of it out. We're going to be doing clouds, so you don't need a whole lot of white on your brush. And I'll show you why. So I'm just gonna, anywhere kind of like you see something, maybe you like here, I don't know if that blended the way I wanted it, so I can just put a cloud on it. So if I just tap it where I want a cloud, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm just doing this like circular motion, but I'm also like pushing. And I'm gonna just be kind of spreading it out and thinking of the cloud as random. So I'm just gonna say go up and down, and I'm just brushing it out. See that? I just circle around on my cloud, back and forth, up and down a little bit to give it some shape until I am liking its desired blendness. So that was like super fast that cloud worked for me. Sometimes they work literally, very easily, and sometimes clouds like to fight. So that one didn't put up a fight with me. So I'll show you again. So I dip in white, then on the paper towel or just somewhere to get out some of that extra paint. You don't want a lot of white on your brush, okay? Then you just kind of tap where you want that cloud to be. So I'm going to say put one up here, and then I'm just pushing and going in that circular motion, and probably hear it. And I'm just kind of moving it around, kind of up and down, just so the cloud isn't, you know, in just one shape. So I'm just putting a little more white because it didn't quite show up. There we go. There. So these ones are kind of faint. If you want them to be bolder, you just take more white and apply it on top until you get the cloud that shows up the way you want it. I like them a little bit kind of faint because then it shows that, you know, clouds are more transparent than anything. So I'm going to say cloud here, here, and maybe, let's say, kind of here on this side on my left. So just tap in the white, a little bit off to the side, and pick a spot and just start to spread around. A little bit more white. So just make sure your clouds aren't just, you know, like a box or something, or like a circle. Just if they're looking that way, just take any end, whether it's the top, the bottom, or the side, and just move it out a bit, and or even go up a bit and down, like just so they're not even. Like clouds are random. It's hard. Like sometimes I want to make things like perfect, but then I just remember like clouds are just floating around happy, you know, they just do what they want. So Just let your brush just kind of do whatever it wants. Happy little clouds. There. Okay. So I'm putting that brush in the water. And if you want other clouds down here, you're more than welcome. It's totally up to you. Oh, you're horrible at clouds. So do you have less paint on your brush? I wish I could see it. I'm sure you're not as horrible as you think you are. I wish I could see it. You could also try to describe to me like what the kind of issue is, and then I'll try my best to help you. Or after, you're totally welcome to send me a message, like a private message, and say, here's my art, any tips or advice, etc. And I'm totally open to that. Okay, so if you have too much paint on your brush and like your clouds are too, there's just too much paint on there and maybe they're too thick, you could just take another brush, any brush that's just literally dry. Take that brush and just do that motion. Say I had a whole lot of paint. I would just take a new brush that's dry and just go around in a circle, pushing and just moving it around and like spreading out that paint so it's not just in one area. Less. You'll do that. Okay, okay. Hopefully that made sense, yeah. Okay. Alright, so yeah, we just have to let this dry. Mine's pretty much dry. Some of yours might not be. That's cool too. We're gonna need black and white and gold and brown. And I did put silver in the comment, but you don't need it because I was looking at it and I actually don't have silver. I thought I did. So it's more gray with what you make with, oh my gosh, black and white, of course. My clouds don't seem to look realistic. Oh, okay. Yeah, don't worry. Just spread, like another way of clouds, so say you just don't like your clouds at all. To take your brush, just kind of clean it off, and then just literally blend them into the background. So say I didn't like something, as long as it's still wet, you can do this, and just go back and forth in the cloud, and just spread it out into the other areas of your painting. So they're more the wispy cloud versus, say, the more fluffy cloud, right? That could be a solution. Plus, we are also growing trees here, and there's going to be quite a bit of leaves, so you probably won't really see most of your clouds anyways. My goal is to leave some of it to show, you know, that's how you place your leaves, so wherever your clouds are, we'll place some leaves. You know, it can be a little bit on top of the cloud, but if you say you just hate your cloud, just cover it up later. It's all good. Okay, Beth, sounds good. All right, so yes, we'll need black, white, gold, and brown out. So I already have white and gold out. Now I'm just gonna get some black. You can get your business card out, your sponge, or your palette knife or old piece of cardboard. That's what we'll need. We don't need the brush anymore. Just put that in the water so it doesn't go all hard on you later. Okay, so I have black and brown. And gold. Okay. Or you can use your Fraily brush. I will play on clouds. Yeah, no problem. Clouds can be really tough. Sometimes, like, this went easy for me this time, but not all times they come easy. Like, clouds can, like I said, sometimes they like to fight with you. So, I've made clouds plenty of times, but it just seems that sometimes they just don't work. On my page too, Painting with Megan, I do have a video that is called Painting Clouds. So it's literally just a picture of painting clouds, nothing else. So if you are wanting to practice that more, you could totally just check out that video. I did in the video a mop brush. So something like this. It's kind of like, say, a makeup brush. You could use something like that for clouds. But really, any brush is totally fine. Like, filberts are great. The one that I was using. A flat brush, I find, like, these are good for clouds. These ones here. I find flat brushes just don't really make the best clouds, so don't use those. Or one of these, like, kind of round tip brushes can make clouds too. Is it on YouTube? No, so it's on my Facebook page, Painting with Megan. And if you go to the video section, you'll find that there. Yeah. I am in the process. I do have a YouTube channel. It is called Painting with Megan. I don't have that particular cloud painting on YouTube yet, but my goal is to save all my videos and upload them to YouTube so I can also have another resource in an area for people to find. So, working on that. Okay, so if it's a little bit wet, that's okay. As long as it's mostly dry, you're good to go for the trees. So we'll go ahead and get started with those. So we actually do need a brush just to kind of make the base of the trees, and then we'll give it some texture with our tools. Okay, so I'll just use, even a flat brush is nice for trees, or the filbert, just any brush. We're going to make a couple trees. My original, I have 3 trees. Oh, you're welcome. I have 3 trees, so it's all up to you, depending on your size of canvas, of course. So I'll just start with, I'll do 3. Should be good. With my 11 by 14. Okay, so I got black on a flat brush, but any brush is totally fine to do this, because we're just marking it out. So from bottom to top, I made the tree, just make it nice and easy. So I'm going to go, say, over here, a little bit to my left. I'm using the width of my brush to make my tree base. If you have something large like this. What size is this? Oh, I've like, it's totally covered in paint. It's like ½ an inch. Well, an inch. But either way, you can always thicken it. So basically the bottom of the tree is going to be much wider than the top. So I'm using that brush. And also using a little water, dip into my black, and that will help my tree grow. So I just take my time going up, and as I get to the top, I'm going to turn my brush and use it on the side instead, so it's not as thick up here. So it's thinner to thicker. There we go. And I actually kind of see a little piece sticking off here, so I'm just going to make it a branch. And all I did for that is I just pick a spot and pull and flick. You could always add branches later too as we go. What I usually do is I add leaves. I do a couple branches and then I add leaves, and then I determine, do I need more branches? So we can look at that later on too. Okay, so there's one. Let's put another one. Maybe kind of right beside it. I have it kind of growing kind of right beside this tree at the bottom. So I'll just use my brush straight right now. And I'm just going to kind of mark out where I want this tree. So I'm making this one go on a little bit of an angle. And I'm going to grow it up here. Yeah. There we go. And then of course I'm going to start to widen that bottom so it can support this tree. There we go. And don't worry if your tops aren't as thin as maybe you wanted them to be. Sometimes that happens. In my original, I literally covered the tops of my trees with leaves. So you don't see it that much. So don't worry. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to put one more tree on the other side. And I'll make this one just going straight again. Of course, at any, like if you want to add more or less, it's totally up to you. And your trees don't have to be exact as mine. If you want a bend in yours, there's nothing wrong with that. Trees literally do what they want as well. There we go. So adding water in with my black paint really does help it move easily for me as I do this. Or just having a little more paint on my brush can also help. Okay, so I didn't do the branches on these ones yet, just because I wanted to see, you know, how it was looking before I added branches. And if you did already, that's cool too. Don't worry. Okay, so I'm gonna add a branch. How are we doing? No questions? I'm gonna add a branch over here. I'm gonna go flick. So I'm starting at the base and I just pull and flick. So maybe dip in water into black and then do the pull and flick because that will also help it move. Maybe I'll put another branch here. Yeah. And maybe up here. And to start, like I said, you can always add more if needed. Okay, and then on this one, I'm going to add a branch. So I'm kind of making sure that they're not kind of all in the same area. So as you see, like there's a branch here and here. So I'm going to move it down a bit so it's not in like this, it's going to make it more random like nature, like, so it's not like to scale. Then maybe I'll add another random one up here. And yeah. Yeah, I'll start with that. There we go. Beautiful. I'm sure you guys are doing so good. Okay, so I'm putting that brush in the water. I'll give you guys a minute. Oh, I almost dropped that. I'm going to show you both techniques. So one with the business card and one with the palette knife. Just going to get my tunes back. I have a CD. When's the last time anybody's used a CD player? I decided to get out some old CDs and play that. Okay. I have a business card. I ripped it in half. And don't worry, these are mine. So, like, I have a lot of them. Okay. So I'm going to show you both techniques. So once we have the trees marked out, to start, we're going to dip in, say with the card first, kind of just dipping in some white. So like I said, you need black and gold and brown out. I'm just dipping in this back and forth. So it's kind of coated on both sides. Okay. So now this is how you make cool bark. So you go from one side. So I like to pull from left to right. And I just pick a spot and I place the card right on the edge of the tree and I just pull. So see that? I just pull. Pull. Kind of leave it a little flick. So sometimes I rotate my business card. I'll show the other trees as the palette knives. It's the same technique though. You can use either or. So sometimes I flip the card because the other side will have more paint. And I just keep pulling it up. Just have to be careful by your edges, right? If you end up, you know, say it gets over a bit, you can always kind of give your tree, put a little bit of black and like give it a little bump, right? Like no tree is just perfectly straight. Trees can be bumpy, so it's all good. Okay, and you could even rip the card. Like sometimes the card's even easier than the palette knife because I can rip this and have a tiny piece and I dip into the white and I can go on to my branches by just having this little surface area here. And this is the cool little barks. I love doing this technique. It's just so cool. So if you get too much white, don't worry. We're going to put like some gold on here. We could always add black. So say it's like, too much white. Put some black back on it. It's all good. Okay, so now I'll just show you with the palette knife. So this is one I have. There's many versions of them. Something that looks like this. This one here wouldn't work good for a tree just because it's rounded, so maybe not that one. Something like this or this is great. So I'm just gonna dip in black with the palette knife. Woo! Okay, I'm just dipping in black with that palette knife here. And so say I'm like, too much white, I'm gonna take some of that and I'm just scraping with that on top, just giving it more and more layers. This is just something you might want to do. If you like yours as it is, then don't worry. That's too much black, so I'm gonna dip in some white. So if you end up getting too much black, put some white on it. This is how you get grays as well. And I usually just kind of go all the way down the tree. What do you guys think of this? Cool? So I am dipping in brown. I'm just gonna add a whole lot of color in this. Just a little bit of brown. In just random places. So maybe a little bit of brown here, here. Basically in these trees there's white and black, so gray, because the black is white it'll make gray, and white and some brown, and we'll also add gold. It's a whole lot of texture, so I'm just bringing it closer. It's kind of hard to see the brown, so my best favorite part is to put the gold in it because it really brings it out to life. So maybe you have a palette knife and you're like not digging it, then you can go with a business card. Sometimes I like that better than these. Like I said, because I can reach smaller areas if I just rip my card. Okay, so I'm just pulling a little bit of gold out. There we go. I don't think too much of where I'm placing it. It's just random. It's just wherever I feel. Don't press too hard, because you can pull it off. There. So I'll stick with that. And again, if there's a color that's too bold, put something on top of it and just blend it in. So if you're good with that, we're going to do this, of course, along all the trees. And then we'll work on the bushes and leaves with the sponge. And just let me know if you have questions. And I'll just keep talking about it as I go. If you're good and you want to continue, that's perfect. So now, because I know this tree is going to be dry, I'm going to just dip into white and black. And I'm going to make a little bit of gray. There we go. And I'm going to apply that to my tree. Maybe I'll add a little more white because it's too dark. Let's play around. So I just go to the edge and then I just drag it. Just not like too much pressure because then it could scrape off. It's kind of finding that happy medium. If you really don't like it, just put black over it. And you can try again. So I put white with a little bit of black so it can make a little bit of grays and whites. And then I'm just dipping into brown. I'm just adding a little brown here and there. More shows up on the white parts than the black, so that's kind of where I focus it. You could also, like, if you end up getting kind of off your branch, you could just take a piece of paper towel, like a tiny piece, literally, and you could like just have it damp, and you can just take it off. It's kind of like an eraser. While it's wet, it works. Oh, sure. just gonna clean it off. I'll just dip into gold and then I'll show you that. It should show up good. So I wonder if I can hold it closer. Okay, so I'm going from the edge and I'm just dragging it. So you can use the card too. And I just randomly pull it across. Just think of it as textured bark. And if you get a spot like me, just wipe it off. And I'll show you again on this one. I'm going to use the card so I have better control to hold it closer for you to see. So I can go slower. It was hard to balance it with the palette knife. It's a little more flimsy. Okay, so business card and white and a little bit of black, making up some gray here, and I'm just tapping it. Okay, so it's on both sides. So now, bring this closer. Okay, sorry, it's wobbly. Okay, so I'm just starting at the bottom, and I'm just on the edge of my tree. I just place the card there, but then I just pull it across. I'm just pulling, and then as I get kind of to the end of the other side of the tree, I just kind of flick it off while lifting, so I don't end up like pulling it off of the tree. So it's kind of like that. I know the card's kind of in the way. I wish I could like have a transparent card. And I just pull. And you can even just do little scrapes. So it's like scrape, scrape, scrape. And kind of see I'm kind of flicking too. So like, maybe here, just. And if it doesn't go like all the way across, that's totally fine too. Then it just looks more natural too. Like some of it is across, some of it's not, because then it would show like that's kind of rounding. And remember, if you get too much white or too much gray or whatever that's showing, just clean off or just use another side or just dip right into another color and apply it on top. There we go. So just go into the little. So if you have the card to get to these little parts, that's good. Or just use the very kind of thinnest part of the palette knife. I'm just going to dip into brown and just add a little bit of brown on top. Kind of more focusing on the lighter areas so it will show up a little bit better. Sometimes I don't put it on the branch, and that's okay too. I hope that made sense. I'm just dipping in some gold. And I'm just adding a little bit of gold, kind of scraping that too. So I'm just applying it and scraping it. Am I getting a mucky card or palette knife? Just wipe it off. You can just put in these desired colors until you're liking the color tone of that. So I have browns and golds and whites and grays in there. And how's that going for you? Was that a little bit slower for you to see? You can just put the palette knife in the water so it doesn't like get the paint stuck to it. I'm just gonna back that up a bit. So next is leaves and bushes. Better. Okay, good. Sorry if I was too fast before. Oh my gosh. Somebody's cutting the grass. It's actually a really nice day here in Ontario. It's like 28 degrees today, which is a little bit rare for May. It's more of like a summer weather. Just gonna close that window so you don't hear the lawnmower. There we go. Isn't it? Isn't that cool? I love doing that technique. Like, it just adds so much realism, right? And I love like the textured look, like as if the bark's kind of peel or something. It's cool. Glad you had fun with it. Let me know when you guys are ready for the leaves. And yeah, if you have more trees, like you wanted more than 3, you could totally do that too. So we'll do the bushes. So the bottom part, and then the leaves. It's all going to be with the sponge. So this is the sponge I have. So sponge, or like I said, something kind of frailed and old, you can tell. Like, look at that. Either way is good. I got this from Walmart. Okay. So give me hearts or thumbs up so I know we're all good. And we're gonna need the same colors still, but mostly brown and gold with a tad of black for the next colors for the sponge. Cool. Alright. So, sponge. And we have to get this sponge wet. So I'm dipping my sponge in my water. It's going to be kind of gross. You could always change your water or just go put your sponge under the water. I'm dipping my sponge in the water and wringing it out. I just want it to be damp, so make sure it's not dripping or soaked. So just wring out that brush. Or sponge, sorry. So just a damp sponge, which is great. So I'll work on the bottom, then we'll go to the top. Okay, so I'm dipping in brown to start. So I'll show you here, I'm just taking that sponge or the frailed brush, just pat it around, dab it around, kind of getting it evenly on the sponge or the brush is what I'm aiming for. Okay, so now I'm going to cover some of the trees at the bottom. So I'm just taking the sponge and I'm just starting to dab. So I'm going to be thinking about dabbing, say, up. So I'm just going for it and just dabbing up and down until it's filled in enough. And then maybe some areas will also kind of have a dip. So some higher areas and some lower, just so it's not all the same. That would be the goal as you go across. We're going to be doing it across. So I'm going to put a little bit kind of underneath. You won't be able to see the brown here quite yet, but once I add more color. So just have some brown just kind of on the bottom, just to hide the bottoms of these trays, pushing them back into the background. Okay, so it's a little bit lower there. And I'm just dipping into more brown. And I'm just gonna go up a little bit again. There we go. And I just kind of keep going in that area until it's more filled in. And I kind of just keep it loose. So that's kind of how, like, so maybe at the bottom it's more filled in. So I'm just kind of dabbing more towards the bottom of these bushes and then kind of keeping it more light, like less filled in at the top. The same thing with this brush here. still be using brown. So I would just kind of really dab that in. And then as I come up, it would just be a little bit less filled in. So as you can see, it works pretty similar. My sponge is a little bit thicker. Whatever works for you. So I kind of went up, down, up. Maybe I'll go up again a little bit more. Maybe not to the same height as these, right? So it's more realistic. So it's higher. These are like the same length, roughly. And if they're not, for yours, that's fine. Just saying, like, if they are, make sure you, if you're high up on this one, that it's not that length. Just so it's random. And then I'm going down here again, keeping it kind of lower. It's lower than these ones, and higher than that one. Just, I'm kind of looking at mine as I go. So ours might be a little different. Just keeping it random. And like I said, a little thicker towards that bottom part and more loose at the tops. There we go. I'll keep it lower on this side. That's so cool what a sponge can do. So now I'm gonna we'll add in other colors to our bush here. So I'm just kind of, actually, while we have this color, no, because it could dry on us. Sorry, I'm thinking. I'm just kind of wiping off some of the brown. You could also wash your sponge, but it's okay if you have a little bit of this color on here anyways, because it's going to mix because of the other colors here. Okay, good, I see some thumbs up. Thanks for letting me know. So I'm just dipping into gold now. So I'm just dipping the same thing into gold here. I'm just dabbing it around so I can get it even on my brush and my sponge. Okay, and I'm just gonna start kind of on the tops with light loose. I'm gonna kind of keep it more on the tops with my gold. There we go. So I'm just kind of going over the tops. Just keeping it light and loose. Some gold. There we go. If you end up getting a little bit higher than the brown showing, that's fine too. So it's kind of just a little bit on top of the brown, just dabbing it loose on the brown. And all of a sudden they just stand right out. Just getting it more paint. Okay, so I'm gonna also, while it's wet, just taking that same area of the sponge is totally fine, or you can rotate it. I'm dipping in a little bit of black, okay? So black, but then I'm gonna go tap my napkin or a different part of my plate because I don't want a lot of black. So I just kind of took off some of that on my napkin. And I'm just going to add a little bit of black just to complement the trees, as well as give it just a little more dimension, some shadows in there. It's just not a lot of it. Just don't have a whole lot of this on your brush or your sponge because it'll just take over. Black is powerful, so a little bit of that, and I'm just kind of adding it more in the brown areas. And it can go up a little bit into the gold too, that's fine. And you can just add a little bit of the black in with the brown just to give it some depth. Some little bit of dark area down here. So if you can see the little bit of black, I just kind of kept it in the browns, a little bit under the gold, even if you moved up a bit into the bottom or the tops. That's kind of key. So it's not looking like here's gold, here's brown, here's black. You kind of want to go all over just so it looks more blended and tied in together. Hopefully that makes sense. That's what I have for down there. And as it dries, like if you can, you know, if it's like, oh, like my brown kind of didn't show up or you need another color on top, like you could totally just add it again. You just have to repeat those steps. So let me know if you have questions. There's one little thing I want to do with the bushes before we go up to the leaves. I'm just going to get out that business card or the palette knife. And I'm just going to dip into black and a little bit of white. So just gray, making some gray here. And I'm just going to make like the illusion of like kind of twigs or sticks that are coming off the bushes just to give it even more depth. Oh, thanks. Okay, so I have gray on my palette knife or my business card. And all I'm doing is I'll just show you even on here. There is, see these little kind of sticks? Just little sticks here. And it just really made more depth. So a couple little sticks makes a big difference sometimes. So I'm just going to place these sticks randomly. I love that word, clearly. Just take that and just dab, suppress, and release. And if it's not showing up, just, you know, get a different color on it. And it's just, you can make them kind of come off. They can go in different ways, straight, sideways. Just a couple of them. Place one over here, you know, two here, one over here, to be more technical, but really I'm not thinking too much about it, and I'm just kind of placing these little sticks wherever. And I just press and release, so. There we go. There. And bam, you have like just some different variety in there. And if you didn't like your stick or something, take that sponge, dab it back in. You know, if it's too much, just put the sponge and be like, yeah, I don't like this. Go like this, cover some of it up, and voila. Thanks. I'm sure your guys' are all looking awesome. I can't wait to see pictures after, which I hope that you guys will post under this video when I'm done the live feed. That would be wonderful. Or people who are on replay, please do that too. This will be available, of course, for anybody that couldn't watch. It'll just stay on this page. In this group, I should say. The Paint Nights online. And I will upload this one to YouTube, to my YouTube channel as well, which is Painting with Megan. Okay, ready for the leaves. We're gonna need that sponge. If your sponge is really mucky, clean it off, get it all fresh, or like me, just use a different side of it. So I'm just gonna rotate my sponge, use a different side, brush, clean it off, dry it off. I find if it's too wet, the brushes, you'll just need more layers, right? So, okay, so I'm just rotating my sponge. I'm gonna start with brown again, starting with the darks, and then I'll go to the lights this time. So now, where my leaves are is kind of that time, so if they didn't like that cloud, cover it up. Wherever you see a branch on your tree, you're just going to start to dab on it, around it. Sometimes I see people just, you know, dabbing just on the top of branches. That's something that we don't want to do. We want to kind of give it some coverage on top of the branches. Yeah, exactly. Like, you never know what's lying around your house. Oh, and an old makeup brush would be cool, too, for this technique with the bushes or the leaves. Like one of those kind of brushes like these. Once I have my gold and silver paint, then I will do it. Yeah, cool. Sounds good. Yeah, you can add silver into the bark, too, if you wanted. Like I said, I thought I had silver in it, but I didn't. It just looked silver from my picture, but it's just gray when I, like, zoomed in on it. Yeah, silver would look cool in it, too. Silver and gold makes me think of that Christmas song. Okay, so I brown on that sponge. Just dab it around so it's not a whole lot of paint on your sponge. And anywhere I see my branch, I'm just going to start over here, and I'm just going to dab, and I'm keeping it loose this time. So I'm going to keep it loose to start, and I'm covering the tops of my tree because I don't want to see these unless you want to. I just don't want to. So I'm just kind of going to start with just that, and as you see, I am covering some of the branch as well. So I'm not going on top of the branch, I'm going on it. And even where there's not a branch, I'm going to put some leaves. So maybe over here, I'm just going to take some leaves. Now be mindful of dabbing here, because if you want your clouds to show, then you got to make sure that you're not covering them completely. And then, like I said, if you don't want your clouds to show, then just cover them. So brown, and I'm going to go over here as well. And on top of that. So this one I don't have a lot of branches, so I can always add that later. So I'll just sponge where I want to put branches, because like I said, you can totally add branches later. So I'm just going to place some leaves here, and I'm just keeping it light and loose. There we go. And then I have a branch. You can even go in the middle of the trees. There. So dab, you can start with dabbing on your branch and then just spread it out, like spread it in towards the tree, away from it, and just keeping it loose, you know, blowing leaves. There we go. When I was young, I used to paint with flower petals. I've always been creative. Literally, I've always loved art so much. So I just feel really thankful that I can come on and share this with people, because before I was super nervous to share my art with anybody. I didn't even let anybody watch me make art. So it's kind of crazy from where I was to where I am now. Okay, I was taking it a little bit slower, and I'm just going to this tree too, so you can see it again. If you weren't too sure about this, and any questions, of course, let me know. So I'm going on top of the branch to start, and then I kind of go down a little bit, kind of over to cover some of the tree, right? Because the leaves are everywhere, and I'm just dabbing the top. I didn't want my tops to show, but if you wanted to, that's cool. There we go. Start with that. And I'm going to fill that in. I always kind of step back. And I'm like, do I really need to put a leaves there too? Sometimes you can get leaf crazy. So, mindful dabbing. And I just went down to the brown again because I seen it was drying. And if you're wondering, what is she doing? I just seen my brown is drying. I was just dabbing on there while I had the brown. So maybe you need to do that too. Oh, sorry. This is kind of moving away slowly. Okay, so now we're going to dip into a little bit of black. Have some shadows in there. So still brown. Maybe I'll just take my black, just loosely, and then I'll even just kind of tap it into the brown or off to the side, maybe onto that napkin. Just a little bit of black, just like the bottom. And now you're going to place that into your browns. I don't really have any exact place where I put it. I just keep it random. So I'm just maybe in the center, maybe a little bit under it, I would say, for the dark colors. So I have my brown, maybe a little bit of black kind of underneath. Maybe a little bit in the middle. Just have fun with it. Put it wherever. No right or wrong. If you really, you can always do this video again. You can have more of them. sometimes we just overthink. So I've been really learning just to kind of let it go wherever, and it'll be good. Because art is art. I love your techniques for painting, as it is the kind of ways I understand more than loads of different brushes. Yes, same. I'd rather just use other tools than a million types of brushes. All right, next is gold. So I'm just wiping off some of that paint. Unless you have another side of your sponge or you just want to clean it off again. Just make sure, like I said, it's run out. It's just damp. You don't want something wet and soaking. Now I have some gold. Dabbing in gold. Starting with a little bit and then adding if needed, right? So I'm doing gold more towards the tops. So I kind of put black under the brown and a little bit in. Maybe now I'll focus more of my gold kind of on top of those leaf cluster areas. But make sure they're not just on top. So really, just dab anywhere. And just put them kind of everywhere. Okay. I'm probably making it hard by moving it back and forth, sorry. Just trying to bring it closer. So I am dabbing, but then I'm like kind of stopping and just looking. Do I need to? Do I not? And if you end up losing a color, it's easy to put it back. So, let's say over here. You can make the gold as bold as you want. So you just kind of layer it. Yeah, that looks good. Maybe you need to touch up your gold down here. I'm kind of going down to the bushes, right? Maybe now that it's drying, you can see that maybe it needs another little coating down there. There we go. I'm going to stop there because I don't want to like overdo the gold, especially because there's gold here, here, and here, and a little bit in there, right? So it's just kind of complementing it. If it's too much, just put some brown, preferably, probably over black. It's not a lot of black in the tree anyways, so it's just a kind of complement down here and with the bark there. Okay, I'm putting the sponge in the water or I'm gonna overdo it. Cool. All right, now this is the time to, once you put the gold and the black and the brown in the leaves, there's only one little step left. And that's, did you need to add a branch somewhere? So, for example, here I have a floating kind of area, right? You can see there is this cluster here, but there's no branch. So, like that, right? So I'm just going to add a branch. So anywhere you kind of see, maybe here I would add a branch. And you can put a branch going into it. Like, it doesn't have to be directly under it. It can, some of them can be under it. But some of them can go into it, into those leaves. Kind of change it up. So you can just get any brush to do that, and I just use black. Don't worry about all the other colors of the bark because these are just little branches. They're not going to be as noticeable. If they end up being thicker, just add a little white to it, right? But otherwise, don't worry. Okay, so here I'm just going to just add a branch. And I just connected here to there. But then, like I said, maybe now I'll go into the leaf. So that one's a little bit thicker. I just wanted to show you if that happens. I just wiped off the black on my paper towel. I'm just going to go into some white. And you would just kind of give it a little bit of just a highlight of white. So if you end up getting something thick, you can even use the brush and just kind of pull up a little bit of the white kind of into your, so maybe I'll do it here too. Just kind of tap in some white even. It's kind of like the brush can do the little detailing parts because you could use the card or the palette knife, but it's just a little trickier because it's thicker. And these are so small. Now I have black. I'm just kind of, you can put random branches literally anywhere. Like, so maybe I can see here, but there's nothing to connect it, so I'll just put one. And anywhere you see branches too that you had, you are able to take it and add another, say a V on it. So don't be worried, like if you ended up losing something, see where it's connecting and bring it back. And you can just give it a little highlight after with some white. So sometimes I just kind of go in and I start to add in some of those branches back into the painting. And that really brings it to life even more. They can just be little, and they can be on other branches that you have. So I have a branch, but I could just pull one out over here. So just add a little more. And then if it's too thick or something, just put a little white on it. Just dab white on it. So I'm just kind of literally just kind of adding a little bit of white on a branch. So if I just kind of pull it out, I have a branch and I just kind of pull out. I'm just showing you here what I was doing on the branches because they're so small. I just have black branch, but then I just pull a little bit of white into it. Yeah. Okay, so that's all the steps I have for you this evening. Let me know if you have any questions. I won't take off like this second, just in case you still have a question. But that is all the steps. So please share your pictures in this underneath this video in the comments, or tag me at Painting with Megan. So it was so fun. I'm so happy to be here in this group. And thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure. Thanks. Really enjoyed it. Awesome, awesome. I'm so happy. I love that you enjoyed it. Painting is just such a stress reliever. We can paint our own little worlds. I'll show you guys something that I'm doing in my painting page. If you want to see, I'm just going to grab it. It'll be my next live. So like I said, I do one live a month on my painting page. So this one here is June 10th. So this is actually palette knife or the business card, which I did put in my description. Making some mountains. So if you want to come and tune into that, just go check out my page and give it a like, so then you'll be notified of when I am live. I also do some Zoom classes as well. So my Zoom classes I do charge for, just because I can actually see you and you can see me and I can help you. So I do offer private classes on Zoom, but I also do like group Zoom, so like Zoom parties or that. So I also have some events. I do have an event coming up on Zoom, and then it's $12. So it just helps like support me and, you know, buy my paint, my materials for more events. So I always do a free one once a month, and then one that has a smaller fee once a month too. So you'll find all that on my page. And any questions, let me know. Yay! So happy. Love doing some new tools and techniques. Yes! So good, so good. All right, everyone. I am going to take off for the evening. So post your photos and have a great night and a great weekend ahead. Take care, everyone. Good night. Bye. You're welcome. Bye.